Imagine waking up one morning and finding that you can't see your own feet. The air outside isn't just foggy, it's thick, yellow and smells like burning tar. You step outside and within seconds your throat burns, your eyes sting, and every breath feels like you're inhaling soot. This wasn't the plot of a dystopian movie, this was London in December 1952. And for 5 days the air in the city became solid. In early December 1952, a cold front settled over London. People were lighting extra fires to keep warm, buses and taxis rumbled through the streets, and the chimneys of thousands of factories and homes poured smoke into the winter sky. It had been a foggy week already, nothing new for London, a city famous for its pea supers, those thick yellow fogs caused by air pollution. By this time, something was different. By December the 5th, the fog stopped lifting. Instead, it thickened, and within hours, it swallowed the entire city. What happened next would kill thousands, bring London to a standstill, and forever change how we think about air pollution. Now, let's start with the science behind it. London in the early 1950s was powered almost entirely by coal, cheap, dirty, and full of sulphur. The average household burned around 1 tonne of coal every winter. Multiply that by millions of homes and you've got an atmosphere already loaded with soot and sulphur dioxide. Then came the weather. A massive high-pressure system parked itself over southern England, creating what's called a temperature inversion, a layer of warm air trapped above colder air near to the ground. Normally, warm air rises and takes pollutants with it, but during an inversion, cold air is sealed underneath it, locking in whatever's already down there. In this case, that meant smoke, soot, sulphur dioxide and moisture, all the ingredients for a disaster. When the fog rolled in on December the 5th, it combined with these trapped pollutants to form an incredibly dense mixture of sulphuric acid, metal particles and tar. The result? A toxic yellow smog so thick you could barely see a few feet ahead. By that evening, London was choking. Literally. Visibility dropped to just a few feet. Buses and cars stopped completely. Drivers simply couldn't see the road. People abandoned their vehicles and walked home, feeling their way along buildings and curbs. At train stations, platform edges disappeared into the gloom. Ambulances couldn't run. Police guided traffic with torches and whistles until the smog got so thick that even flashlights were useless. One Londoner later said, "You could not see your hand in front of your face. You could not see the traffic lights. You could not see your feet." Inside buildings it was just as bad. The smog seeped in through cracks in windows and under doors. Theatres had to close mid-performance because audiences couldn't see the stage. Cattle at Smithfield Meat Market were reportedly suffocated before they could be slaughtered. It wasn't just unpleasant, it was deadly. At first, no one realised how bad it was. Londoners had grown used to fog, but this one wasn't just fog, it was full of poison. The main culprit was sulphur dioxide, which reacted with the water in the fog to form sulphuric acid, an actual corrosive chemical in the air. People began coughing uncontrollably. Hospitals filled up with patients struggling to breathe. Within a few days, the city's morgues were actually overflowing. Doctors estimated that by the time the fog lifted on December the 9th, that around 4,000 people had already died, mostly the elderly, infants, and people with lung or heart conditions. But later studies revealed something even more horrifying. The true death toll wasn't 4,000, it was more like 12,000. 12,000 people dead in less than a week from the very air that they breathed. And another 100,000 were left sick or permanently disabled. Eyewitness accounts paint a terrifying picture of life during those 5 days. Londoners described the smog as a brown, oily soup. Clothes became filthy, just walking outside. Faces and hands were stained with soot. Cyclists pushed their bikes because they couldn't see the path ahead. One bus conductor recalled, "We had to crawl behind the bus with a torch so the driver could follow the light." Hospitals ran out of oxygen. Even pets suffered. Birds fell from the sky, and cats were found dead near fireplaces, suffocated by the fumes. Yet for many, life had to go on. People still went to work, children still went to school. They didn't yet realise that every breath was killing them. When the weather finally changed on December the 9th, the smog dispersed almost as suddenly as it arrived, but the horror remained. Doctors, scientists and journalists began to connect the dots between air pollution and the staggering death toll. The government could not ignore it any longer. In 1956, just 4 years later, Parliament passed the Clean Air Act, a landmark piece of legislation that banned the burning of coal in certain areas, introduced smokeless fuels, and encouraged the relocation of heavy industry away from cities. It wasn't perfect, it took decades for real change to take hold, but it marked the beginning of modern air pollution control. And it all started because, for 5 days in 1952, London's air became lethal. The Great Smog wasn't the first pollution disaster, but it was the one that changed public perception forever. Before 1952, smog was seen as just part of London life, something atmospheric, even romantic. Writers like Charles Dickens and Arthur Conan Doyle described fog as part of the city's identity. After the Great Smog, well, that romantic image died. Londoners had seen what happens when industry, weather, and indifference collide. And while it's easy to think that this kind of event could never happen again, air pollution still kills millions of people worldwide every year, just less dramatically. Cities in developing countries today experience pollution levels comparable to London in the 1950s, only the smog is invisible, made up of microscopic particles and gases. The Great Smog of London was a warning, one that still matters today. So next time you see a hazy skyline or hear an air quality alert, remember, once London's air got so dirty it turned practically solid, and for 5 terrifying days an entire city learned that the air we breathe can be as deadly as a weapon. Because in December 1952, London's greatest killer wasn't war or disease, it was the weather. Thank you for watching History of the World. If you've learned something new, click subscribe.